Let's discuss one of my favorite topics in programming, which is operators. I know it sounds a little sad, but hey, I am who I am. These things fascinate me, and you're about to see why. Let's start with our basic public class called myThing, and inside of our public static void main, let's write some code. Let's have an integer a is equal to 10 and an integer b is equal to 11. Now what is an operator? Well, it's simply something like addition or subtraction, multiplication and division. So let's see what that looks like. Let's have system.out.println, and inside the brackets let's have a plus b, and we want a lowercase b. Now when we hit compile, it should compile fine, and when we click run, we get a result out of 21. And that's what we expect. It's added a and b. What about subtraction? Let's compile it and run it, and we get -1. That's fine. Let's multiply, compile, and run 110, which is also correct. Now, here's the tricky bit. What if I divide, compile, and run? We have a result of 0. However, 10 divided by 11 is more like 0.9 something. So what's happened here? Well, when we divided an integer by an integer, the variable type that we get back is also an integer. And if you recall, integers only store whole numbers. So what does the system do? It simply drops out the point part, which is a little bit inconvenient, you might say. Right, let's try with a double instead. Hit compile and then run. And now we have our long number, 0.909090, etc., recurring. So that works with doubles. Now if you recall in a previous lecture, I said we have to watch out for these types. A number isn't just a number. So let's see what happens if we copy these three lines, paste them below, and let's change these to floats. Floats, and let's call it C and D, and let's have C divided by D. Now when we compile and run this, we might expect the result to be the same. But look at that. When we use a double, we have much more precision. When we use a float, we have less precision. So if your program or app is doing something maths-based, then you have to be very careful as to which kind of variable you're using. Because division, for example, and this is a prime candidate for errors, will just drop the decimal point of your number. Floats will give you a much shorter number than you expect. And doubles take up more memory to give you a longer number. So, in the future, when you're making your apps, really think about these points. Right, I'm just going to remove some of these lines to give us some space. And what I'm going to do is define a string a is equal to ground. And let's make a string b is equal to is, and string c is equal to awesome, because I have to say it, no one else will. Now, we can add strings together. So I can say a plus b plus c. And when I compile and run this, it does what's called concatenation. And that simply means putting strings one after another. When we're concatenating strings, We can also add other strings on the fly. So my sentence has no spaces. I can add quotation, space, quotation, and after B I can do the same. And this is going to add 2 spaces into my sentence for me. So you can add strings on the fly. As you might expect, you cannot subtract strings. You of course cannot multiply them, and you cannot divide them. You can only concatenate strings. You can remove strings from the end of existing strings, but that's more of an advanced topic, and you'll come across that bit by bit in your Java development career. So that handles operators inside of Java in a very basic sense.